So how's life?
Good.
Other than, I don't know how political we want to get, but there was an election this week, and that happened.
Yeah, we're trying not to think too hard about it for a little bit.
No, let's just try to think about other things for 4 years or so.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if we want to use this intro, but
I think I mean, there is room. There are plenty of things that I listen to that are political, but A, I don't know how much I want to do that, and B, I don't want to get yelled at by people online. I stand firm in my beliefs, but I don't like to get yelled at that much.
Yeah.
And all the reaction I have gotten from posting online has been positive, aside from the occasional constructive criticism. But I have not had anybody yelling at me for being like, "Oh, you're horrible and you suck," and that would be nice. I would like to not have that.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
Oh well. So on to other topics. Other topics we want to bullshit about, or just straight in?
I think so if people haven't figured out, we usually do this podcast thing after a round of D&D.
And we are using D&D in the same sense that we as Texans use Coke for all soft drinks.
Oh yeah.
So we are not at much love to Dungeons and Dragons, but we are playing currently Mage the Ascension. We do other systems. We just call it all D&D.
Yeah.
We also do play D&D.
Yeah, we play that too.
And so we had a really cool. Ryan had a cool thought as the DM where we made 6 alternative versions of ourselves and kind of do some kind of battle royale. And it's been an interesting thought project, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, coming up with alternate versions of ourselves, and then 2, whichever one wins the battle royale, we have to play as for a bit.
Yeah. And part of this mage campaign is that we are playing ourselves as wizards. So we're not just making up characters. The characters are us. So it's already very, very meta, and now we're coming up with alternate selves. So I was very tickled when I came up with that one night. I'm like, oh, this will be fun.
And the first round was pretty hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
All fun and games until someone rips a lung out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to have to wait for the narrative version to know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah. It will be coming out. It'll be episode 5, and that one might be a little while because there are 7 of us playing, and there's a session for each character or each player, and yeah, it took us an entire session to do one guy's battle. So we may or may not get more or less. It may take 2 months to get all of us all through this, but it'll be fun. So yeah, eventually you'll find out what the hell that was about. But lungs were snatched.
But then, do we want to talk about Franken?
Yes, on the note of a lung.
I couldn't remember what the name was. We were talking about. Is it
Franken-Castle.
Franken-Castle.
Oh,
Okay.
Franken-Castle.
All right, so yes, this is
Trail off.
on the subject of lungs being made into horrible abominations.
Yeah.
There was a lung crab. Let's talk about men being made into horrible abominations. Franken-Castle, the run of the Punisher, where Frank Castle turns into Frankenstein. Or Frankenstein's monster, to be correct. Also, this is Professional Nerds Podcast, where silly shit is serious business. So, figured we should throw that in there somewhere. Yes, Franken-Castle, or my subtitle for this, possibly my clickbaity title for this episode, If You Like Punisher, You Suck. So yes, the short story, or the short version of Franken-Castle is during the late 2000s, mid-2010s, during the Dark Reign time period, where Norman Osborn is in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., which has been turned into Hammer. He starts the Dark Avengers, which are just the Avengers, but it's all villains. So they have, instead of Hawkeye, it's Bullseye, just in Hawkeye's costume. And they get Wolverine's son, Daken, to run around as Wolverine. Except he's, murdery.
Oh, yeah.
We mentioned him before, yes. Yeah. This was when he was getting bigger as a character. Before he got deaded and then made into Helverine. He's Wolverine with Ghost Rider powers.
Oh,
that's
Brought back
kinda
from the
cool.
dead.
that sounds
Also
amazing.
terrifying because he's a psychopath.
Yeah, he is a psychopath. He's a little more. He got over some of it.
Okay, good.
Because he was too interesting to stay around as just a psychopath, so he got redeemed a little. But yes, he gets sent by I think basically Punisher for reasons tries to kill Osborn. Osborn takes this poorly, sends Daken to kill him, and Daken does. And kills Franken-Castle and then cuts him into pieces and punts him off the top of the roof. Whereupon, his body is stolen by mole people, which are the Morlocks.
Is this just the cold opener?
Yes.
That's just how this book starts?
Yes.
Alright.
This all happens as a one-off, one-issue thing. And then they find, so his body gets taken down to underneath New York City to what turns out to be Monster Metropolis, where the Legion of Monsters, which is a pre-existing team consisting of Werewolf by Night, which is Jack Russell. He was a Man-Thing, a mummy of some sort, possibly a demon sometimes, Hellstrom, the son of Satan, and Morbius, the living vampire. And maybe a couple other, basically all the monster characters from Marvel who are sometimes heroes show up and are a team together. So
Of those I've heard of Morbius.
yeah, basically a werewolf, a wolfman, a werewolf, a vampire, a mummy, a man, creature from the Black Lagoon type thing, and a man thing, which is like Swamp Thing, but copyright.
Is it like a Mantar?
No, not quite. It's you didn't watch the Marvel horror movie, did you?
I did not, no.
You should. It's good. It's only an hour long, but it's quite entertaining. And they have Man Thing in it. He is he's like Swamp Thing. He's a giant shambling pile of moss. Except his unique shtick is whoever knows fear burns at the touch of the Man Thing.
Wow.
So if you are afraid,
He's
he
swampy.
touches you and he lights you on fire. He also doesn't talk and isn't a paranormal hero like Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is a much better character, but Man Thing is quite interesting in his own right. Also, apparently, because we mentioned it, I think he has actually technically been retconned to be part of the Weapon Plus program.
Oh, interesting.
He was an accident that they made at one point, trying to do a different thing, and he popped out. So yes, the Legion of Monsters have been protecting the monsters of the world from a bunch of not to put too, huh?
From Doctor Strange?
Well, no, from a bunch of Japanese monster slayers, who, to be fair, they're Japanese because they had a lot of radioactive monsters rampaging in Japan and formed an elite squad to fight them off,
Whoa.
and then took it to bigotry levels.
Is Godzilla in Marvel?
There's Fing Fang Foom, who is a Chinese dragon who is also slightly Orientalist caricature. He has a Fu Manchu mustache as a dragon.
Gotcha. I was just trying to make the connection between the Japanese.
Basically Godzilla kaiju. They had kaiju running around because Godzilla movies, and they formed a unit to fight them off.
Gotcha.
And then got all culty and bigoted. So they've been running around killing monsters, hunting for this special item, which as it turns out is a bloodstone, which is the thing in Marvel. There's several heroes called Bloodstone. Elsa Bloodstone is the current one. She's hot. And she's saucy and British, which is a lot of fun. She was in Next Wave, which is one of my favorite comics because it's totally sarcastic and cynical. But anyway, these monsters needing help, Morbius decides they need not only a monster to fight, they need a soldier, they need a tactical person. So he gets the body of Franken-Castle and Frankensteins his ass back together and brings him back to life as their defender. And Punisher being Punisher, he says fuck you for a while until a kid gets deaded by an attack by the monster hunters, and then he just comes out and murders everybody. Because So it goes from there. Eventually, he gets the Bloodstone implanted in him after he fights off all the monsters and their evil German monster hunter, like trapped in a steampunk contraption, skull in a jar type thing. He gets the Bloodstone put back in him, and this heals him up over time back to his like actual. He's a human being again.
Oh, interesting.
So you get that's how they undo the whole "we made him into Frankenstein's monster" thing. So yeah, that is the short run on Franken-Castle.
Wait, so did he turn against the monsters that made him?
No,
No, this is a different group of monsters that killed the kid.
there were monster hunters, the Japanese monster hunters. They find Monster Metropolis, they invade, and in the fight, they kill a little kid that Castle had become slightly fond of. And he, and then they like, as he's standing there holding the dying child, looking all poignant at him, they have the poor taste to threaten him, and it goes about how you would expect.
So when do you get to the part where if you like the Punisher, you suck? Because I've played Fable, and walking around with the Fable, you get your dog, and someone kicked my dog, I murdered the entire town. So like
that's
still Team
that's
Punisher.
fair. I mean, well, so I am on board with the whole like they kick the dog, you murder them all. I like Punisher as a character. My beef with Punisher is he's kind of stupid. Like, clearly, this entire thing is we don't know what to do with Punisher, so we're gonna make him a monster now, and then like be as heavy-handed as possible about the whole they're bigots because they look different, and have Punisher have a just excuse to just go murder nuts on them.
Okay.
But so much of the Punisher's backstory and history is like, for a while he died and then was made a hitman by heaven to like hunt down demons, which was stupid in 90s. And then he was, a psychopathic killer, and then he was like, crazed on his meds because somebody was spiking his stuff and making him, hunt down people who jaywalked. Basically, the entire premise of Punisher is like, my beef is with people who have Punisher decals. If you have a Punisher decal, you're probably a douchebag. Because the entire premise of him is that the society is broken, and it's so broken that it needs like a psychopath with a gun to just go around shooting people. He's not heroic. He's not a good guy. He's a symptom of a fundamentally diseased society. And I get, and I would understand if people were like, yeah, our society's fucked up. Like, here's the image of that, and that's why I have the Punisher logo. But that's not who has the Punisher logo. It's, yeah, he shoots bad guys. Like, no. He's a psychopath. Yeah. He is the antithesis of the American system. Like, we're supposed to believe in justice and law and order and all that stuff, and he's pure id. Like, he's Charles Bronson from the Death Wish movies, except given an infinite arsenal and license to kill people who are technically worse than he is. And I love him as a character. He's a lot of fun. In the Secret Wars storyline, where all the universes get smushed together and then restarted, like as the incursions are happening and the Ultimate Universe is invading the regular universe and all the heroes are fighting up in the sky, Kingpin sends out a message to, like, hey guys, let's meet at the place where we planned the thing that time. I'm buying. And, we'll just sit here and we'll watch the superheroes fight and die and be stupid, and we'll enjoy a last beer. So they all meet up, they're having a good time. Door opens and it's Punisher. Hey, so I heard you can't take it with you, and here I got all these bullets. Whatever am I gonna do? Like, that's fun. Yeah. That's a hell of a moment. Punisher is a fun character, but he's not the hero, and he's not even the protagonist. Like, so much of the Punisher is people trying to make him like, oh, he's such a, what the fuck can we do with this guy? And the answer is nothing. You don't do anything with the Punisher. He's a villain or a thing you have to deal with. That's where he's best, as, someone off on the side that, like, yes, the hero is trying to take down this mob boss correctly, and this lunatic gun nut is also trying to murder the fucker. You know, that's an interesting story. But like Punisher is protagonist.
The Punisher show, like my favorite part of it was the whole interaction with Daredevil.
Yeah.
Was that him being, or really was in Daredevil, wasn't in Punisher, but like when he was brought in for the TV show, that him as this like juggernaut factor for Daredevil to deal with, fascinating, super interesting.
That's
contrast,
interesting.
Really cool, like storytelling, and they did a really good job. The actors, both of them, I can't think of their names right now, but both of them did a terrific job. But yeah, I mean, it does seem that a lot of people don't like understand how much Punisher, like, if you were to actually meet the guy, he would probably kill you.
Yeah.
Like, just because like that is exactly the kind of people that he goes after is when there's.
Well, one of my favorites, my favorite scenes, and I've seen it all over the internet, is a page where like from a Punisher comic where he meets a bunch of cops, and they're like, "Yeah, we're such big fans of yours. We even have your logo on our car." And he just walks over, peels it off, and starts tearing it up. Like, listen, dipshits, you took an oath to protect people. I'm a murderer. Like, we are not the same. If you need a role model, his name is Captain America, and he'd be happy to have you. But this is... Yeah, people in authority definitely should not be looking up to the Punisher, because the entire premise of the Punisher is that the cops are failures, and you need
and are corrupt,
and are corrupt,
not going to do anything good or helpful.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes sense. I feel that a bit too.
I will say I'm also carving out a caveat for like the Punisher show or movies where it's not actually related to comics at all. It's just like technically it's named the Punisher, but it's Death Wish, but in a modern version. Like, he's just a guy with guns shooting up some mobsters. And, okay, that's a fun movie. You know, got nothing against the Punisher movies, but they're also not where you're gonna get like the Punisher decal. They're very forgettable. They're just kind of meh. They're fine.
I'm also not super familiar with Death Wish.
Death Wish was it was from the late 70s, early 80s. Charles Bronson, who was like a big action star, except now he's an older man. And it's, you know, his wife or kid gets killed by minority gangsters, so he just runs around urban settings shooting minorities.
that was their tagline.
Wow.
Guy drives around shooting minorities.
I mean, I'm hyperbole, obviously, for comedic effect, but I'm not wrong. I remember one of the movies that they made like 5 of them. I remember catching a few minutes of one on TV, and he's like, it's this neighborhood that's terrorized by gang violence and gangs breaking into their, you know, New York City apartments. So one of the things he teaches one of the guys is like, here, take a plywood board and put a bunch of nails through it and set it right beneath your window. That way, when they break in, they step on the nails and they, you know, impale their foot and scream. And like, that's not defense. That's a man trap. You could
put that board over the window.
Yeah.
Keep them out. Less nails, actually. Takes fewer nails to secure the board to the thing. You're wasting money. This is inefficient.
This is not about protecting yourself. This is about hurting and punishing people. It's the Kevin McAllister, except with, you know, actual guns and, you know, 80s vengeance.
Porn.
Yeah, there you go. And Death Wish was one of the first of those vengeance porn type movies.
Gotcha.
I also love that about Kevin McAllister. Somebody pointed out online, it's like, he was a child. At any point, he could have picked up the phone, called 911, and they would have had a squad cars there in 2 minutes. I'm a child in this nice suburban neighborhood alone, and there are strange men outside. In the 90s. Like, yeah, they would have been right there. He wanted to fight those men. He wanted their pain. Kevin McAllister wanted blood.
And by God, he got it.
Yeah, he did. Those men should have been dead. Like taking a paint can to the forehead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the bowling ball and
those are lethal
fire,
traps.
The gas explosion would have taken out the entire house. There's so many. Yeah. No, actually, that's a whole other conversation for us to have. Is to do like if you were to calculate how strong those guys like Bones and Systems had to be to survive the shit that they went through in that house, I bet you could make a case for they were like renegade Thunder Warriors. Yeah. I'm just like...
There's a YouTube short series that I love called Villain Support, where it's like a for those who haven't seen it, customer support for villains and the occasional heroes, but they have a running gag that the Yautja, the Predators, suck at everything, and they're like they have a list of not to fuck with, and at the top are Punisher and Kevin McAllister. And they're like, guys, I know we said they're... Yes, technically they are just regular people, but they are the least regular people you will ever meet. Do not do it. Go away. But yes, so no, I like the Punisher. My beef is often with the Punisher fans, and again, I get people who think the system is broken and corrupt. Again, we just... there's... Put it this way, without verging too much into politics, when we're recording this, we just had an election last week, and half the country, whichever side you're on, thinks that things is fucked up. So, there are a lot of people out there who do think the system is broken and flawed, and some people, and I've seen lots of, polls about this one way or the other, on all sides have said, maybe some sort of violence is what's called for. Maybe you do need a guy with a psychopath running around. But I'm okay with that in fiction.
Yeah.
I don't want that in real life.
Yeah.
Like, I am an anti-war, but I love my war novels. I love 40K. But I recognize that, let's keep that to the books and movies and video games.
War and video games, fantastic. Super fun, very entertaining.
Until we can respawn in real life, let's maybe cool it on the shooting.
Yeah.
People who have Punisher decals, it doesn't make you necessarily an asshole. It's not a sign of assholishness, but it's a thing that assholes wear. Let's put it that way. So I am always hesitant about the Punisher, and I've read a lot of Punisher stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a hallmark of the times, especially if you're looking into the dark age or the stupid age of comics. But yeah. Part of the big problem, and one of the reasons, again, that they had to make Franken-Castle is nobody knows what the fuck to do with this guy. He's great as a B character, but he's not a hero. He's not even that good a villain. He's just a nut job.
Well, he's so single-minded that it means that there is a limit to how much depth you can create for that character because of the single-mindedness. Which is why he works in conjunction with more interesting characters, because it's like, again, with Daredevil, it's what does Daredevil do with his set of morals and systems when faced with this implacable force that is Frank-Castle? Now that's a really interesting dynamic where just Frank-Castle by himself doesn't make for an interesting character because he's just kind of one note, and that's kind of the point of him.
Yeah.
Is he's like, no, I made up my fucking mind. This is exactly what I do. I'm very convinced that I'm right about what I should be doing, and fuck you if you think otherwise. I don't care.
And also, one of the things I do kind of like this about Punisher in his most usual incarnations, he doesn't want you to join his quest. Like, what? No. I want to fight. I want to join you and fight society. Fuck you. You get out of line, I'll put a bullet in your head.
Yeah.
Try shooting someone. I dare you.
I double dare you.
But part of I'm the bad guy, do you not understand?
Yeah.
There's nothing good about what I do. I'm just insane and have to do it. So there.
Well, and he still believes in society. He still believes that people should be able to live in peace and people should be able to do that. He's just decided that his way of doing that is going to be to murder the people who make that not a thing.
Yeah. Although that was interesting, I am suddenly thinking of times Punisher was kind of neat. Have you all heard of Earth X?
Yeah, didn't they talk about that in the Superman, My Friend the Superman show? Wasn't that where the portal was for?
Oh, Marvel's Earth X. Yeah.
No.
Because Earth X, now Earth 10 in DC, is the Nazi Earth. Well, it's the one where the Germans won.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's weird.
It is. That's
Canon, alright.
yeah. Well, Earth 10 is the one where the Germans won World War II, in part because Superman landed there. So yeah, it's a sucky world. Has Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. But in Marvel, Earth X was an alternate universe set like sometime in the future where pretty much everybody had superpowers. So all the heroes were retired. Earth was kind of dystopian, and over time, like if you remember Eternals, where that it turns out the Earth is a seed for baby Celestials, and it like pops out of the ground. That's from Earth X. That whole like idea of Galactus was basically a predator on celestial eggs. That's why he went around sucking life out of those worlds. But as part of that, as one of the sequels, there's like Universe X and then Paradise X, where they realize that Mephisto is actually an alien, not the devil, and heaven is just another place. Basically, they have Frank-Castle there with his family in heaven, and he has to convince everyone that they're already dead, so he becomes a mass shooter. Like, he goes up to a church tower and starts shooting people, and then shouting at them, like, "Get back up, you're fine. You've been dead for years. I cannot hurt you." Like, walks to his own family, shoots all of them, and then they get back up, and he's like, see? Which is just...
Terrifying?
Kind of terrifying, yeah, but it's... And, of course, they were all, dementia, sort of, so they just think he's going crazy and they don't notice that they die and come back, or, don't die in the first place. So the whole thing is just playing with him, like, having a mental breakdown as he has to kill a bunch of innocent people to prove to them that they're already dead and can make heaven into whatever they want it to be. It was very weird. Not a great sequel, but it was a fun little play on the Punisher of like, okay, you have everything you ever wanted, now you have to shoot it to make it, to be a hero, to make them, to take them to a better place. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept.
So yeah, you can do fun things with the Punisher. I mean, Franken-Castle was a fun read. It's kind of fun to see Frankenstein's monster Punisher beating the shit out of a Nazi head in a jar. Except it's not Nazi, it's 1800s steampunk. So, Bavarian head in a jar. But still,
right.
It's a lot of fun. It's a hell of a read, but it is a mediocre character, and people, every time I see a Punisher decal when I'm out driving, I cringe. It's like, okay, I know everything I need to about you. And I know you're not supposed to judge people by the covers, but fuck you, I'm a nerd, I'll gatekeep. That's what we do.
It should be stated for the record that we have differing opinions on gatekeeping and nerdery. But that's fine, we don't all have to think the same thing. Some of us can be wrong.
I don't gatekeep over important things. I just gatekeep over personal taste. Like, oh, you like that character? Oh.
That's not gatekeeping so much as just judging.
Okay, yeah. Judging then, fine.
I feel like we need an episode now of the people that you judge the most per superhero that they like. So we got Punisher.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think of people who like Black Panther?
Oh, Black Panther's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of the coolest stuff about Black Panther has been in like the last 10 years, especially with the movies. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. Like, yeah, he started as an interesting character, and then they did a lot of nothing with him, and then they did some cool stuff with him. That's cool. I'm okay with that. I'm generally okay. I don't get too judgy about superhero tastes, just certain ones. And I can't think of any off the top of my head, otherwise I would be much funnier about this.
Aquaman used to be an easy one.
Yeah, but Crazy Hobo Hookhand Aquaman was always pretty badass.
I never experienced that Aquaman.
He was the Aquaman in Justice League Unlimited, or that cartoon. Mm-hmm. Had his hand chopped off, so he had the hook. Had the long hair and the beard.
Nice.
That one, as opposed to the clean cut, handsome.
Yes, blonde Aquaman.
Blonde Aquaman.
Yes.
Like this one looked like he could actually be king and kick someone's ass. That Aquaman was pretty badass. But yes, there have been long stretches where Aquaman was just garbage.
Yeah. Well, they gave him the new water powers and stuff. I don't. I say new. It was new to me. But I mean, I agree. I thought Iron Man was kind of he was cool, but kind of lame in the comic books because he was kind of bitchy. But Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Made it a lot more.
Well, and in the comics, Iron Man was the hardcore conservative. He was the anti-communist, pro-big business.
I said what I said.
Right? Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. He sucked in the comics up until, and he was his biggest thing in the comics was being an alcoholic, which was, I'm not trying to say that's bad. That was an interesting story arc, and it was kind of neat to have a hero with a flaw. Maybe they actually have personal problems, but that's not exactly a huge hallmark of heroism. Yeah, the movies made Robert Downey Jr. made Iron Man a likable character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But by that same token, the movies made the Guardians of the Galaxy not absolute shit. They were a nothing. That was Marvel's biggest flex up to that point. Hey, this bullshit team that nobody ever actually liked that has a fucking raccoon on it? You will love them now. And we'll even put Howard the fucking Duck in it. And you'll still love it.
I do.
Oh, me too. They did a great job.
Yep.
And I know they talked bad about Star-Lord with what he was doing, but he was going through some emotional shit, made a mistake, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, in Avengers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love makes you do crazy things.
So does plot hooks.
And drugs.
Love makes you do a lot of drugs.
And plot hooks. Love will plot hook you into all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the cinematic Guardians were awesome. I just, as soon as you said that, the whole image of Star-Lord looking up the ramp at everybody and then Thor just leaning into
Is that Love and Thunder?
Gifts to humanity, yes.
Yeah,
Which I loved. A lot of people did not like it. I found it hysterical. I enjoyed every minute of that film.
I loved every minute of Love and Thunder, and I will not hear a word said against Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
I like the part where they had the little kids rampaging.
So good.
With the little bunny.
It was awesome.
That made me really happy.
Yeah. That's still one of probably my favorite Thor movie.
Yeah. Well, and the whole thing of the hammer being jealous of the,
the axe.
Just the coding part.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, and some people bitched about, oh, it's not serious. It's so silly. Excuse me, it's a space Viking with techno-magical bullshit. Have you seen any of the Jack Kirby drawings? It's all nonsense from day one. The fact that you're having fun with it just means have fun with this shit. You can be serious in a silly movie. You can... Pretty much all of the Marvel movies with light hearts had very serious moments in them that were very poignant. Mm-hmm. But I never got the whole DCEU thing of oh, we can't have jokes, we can't have a good time. Fuck you, it's a comic book.
Yeah, but I mean,
have a little lighthearted joy, for God's sake.
But there's and this might be another conversation, but there was definitely a turning point in comic books, because I remember them being happy-go-lucky and stuff like that, like Adam West Batman or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's dark and gritty, and Joker's now a genius versus this crazy, chaotic idiot.
That was the 90s.
Yeah.
And that was the dark age of comics that I mentioned, and we've passed through the Renaissance age. I would argue we're in the age of exploration. But we are now, part of the Renaissance age is hey, no, we can have fun with this. Some of this stuff is kind of silly. Batmite. Anybody remember Batmite? Batmite's a laugh. Also, and like, Batmite is a great example of the Renaissance age because Grant Morrison took him and brought him back as Batman creates a backup personality for himself in case somebody tries to attack his mind. That personality is the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, which is like, somebody described it as Technicolor Dreamcoat Batman. So it's like purple and red and yellow as like a patchwork quilt hobo suit Batman.
Nice.
Who is visited by Batmite, the imp from the fifth dimension. And as he's like having this vision quest across Gotham, as he's going insane and trying to fight off, any number of mental attackers, he turns to Batmite and is like, aren't I imagining you? Well, of course, idiot. What do you think the fifth dimension is? It's imagination. And so, like, yes, it's silly. It's also entirely serious and about a man having a mental breakdown as people are plotting to destroy his mind. So you can do both at the same time and, have it be really interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But also, you can do that if you're Grant Morrison and a genius who talks to aliens.
Well, but you can also, like, for me, there's a greater degree of, I don't know, just from my own, like, artistic brain, that if like, coming into the 90s, there was a lot of superhero there was honestly very one note in a positive direction.
Yeah.
And then there was an overcorrection of like, oh, well, then we'll make everything dark and gritty, and like that would be what's cool and interesting. And I was like, no, you overswung. And now, what you're calling the Renaissance is, yeah, we're seeing more of a like, well, what if we use a little of A and a little of B?
Yeah.
Because in any kind of art, you want contrast to create meaning.
Yeah, definitely.
And so if you're already laughing and you're already enjoying and having a good time with the characters, and then something really poignant and sad happens, your emotional investment happened during the laughter, and now you cash in on it with the sweet poignant moment, or the whatever sad poignant moment, whatever it is, and now you're having a greater experience because you're going through different kinds of experience in the same storytelling, which is awesome, and I'm about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely all about it. Because I know you guys have watched it. My Adventures with Superman. That's pure Renaissance age.
Exactly.
It's so good.
If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's fucking amazing. It's Superman if he were Sailor Moon, and it is everything you didn't know you ever needed.
It's so good.
It really is. But it's that idea of like, yes, there will be episodes where Jimmy is talking about psychic starfish in Germany, and like, which is an entire thing in the comics, or like mer people and these French psychic apes, and like everything these are all characters he's mentioning. And then it will have a very poignant thing about like love and friendship and, finding yourself, and then go back to silly. So yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah.
I gotta go for a bagel.
Gotta go for bagels?
Oh, forgot cream cheese.
So
we should do an episode at some point that just like does the references from My Adventures with Superman.
Oh, I am
there are
down.
so many of them, and there's like they were really thorough. That's the other cool thing, is that they did a lighthearted new take on Superman, but they did it with like exacting like dedication to the lore.
Yeah,
like, they were very, very conscious about being aware of what Spider-Man or what Superman has been.
They were hitting lore callbacks that I was like, damn, this is some deep stuff. But I will say we are probably towards the end of an episode. We might want to save that maybe for next time.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts on Punisher or the suckitude thereof?
I like Punisher, but I get where you're coming from, and I do agree he's not like a standalone character.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people do miss the point of the character.
Yeah, I agree. And then the type of person you're talking about with like the cops having it on there, and he's like, no.
You're allowed to enjoy art and media however you want, but if you don't enjoy it the way I do, then you're wrong. That's how it works, isn't it? Yes, that's why I got that PhD. So I could just yell at people that they're wrong about things.
Yeah.
Back to gatekeeping.
And it does. Well, and it does. There's a thing where it's like 40K fans who are like, things should be like they are in the Imperium, and it's like no.
You guys, the point was on
point-
the opposite end of that.
Yeah, the point was if we imagine how things would be if they were the worst, that's 40K. That was the setting. We're not supposed to want that. We're supposed to be like, oh yes, this is terrible.
There's only like a couple of things in the Warhammer 40K that they do better than us now, right?
Yeah.
Sexism, like we don't care. Grab a gun, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and racism in that way. Like,
Yeah.
between humans, do not give a fuck what your genealogy says at all. That fucking thing over there has 12 legs and 3 of them are swords. The other 2 are somehow a gun, and we need to fight that. That's the problem right there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
a
it's...
couple of things they have on us.
All right. Well, so yes, there are lots of ways to read things and to enjoy things, but there are sometimes like you're missing the point, guys. So on that note, don't miss the point, I guess.
Don't miss the point.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Deuces.